Hi, and welcome to Spotlight on the Word. Today is another episode of our daily or Sunday Bible related discussions we do have. Okay, so today we'll be discussing the woman's choice, unwanted pregnancy. We have in the studio here with us two wonderful ladies, and then I'll let them introduce themselves. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Abigail Furiamwa. I'm a social work practitioner at the Hope Training Institute. I worship with the Village of Hope Accra Campus Church at Ayawas. Thank you for having me here today.
You're welcome. Okay, we also have in the studio with us Miss Ednam Avebo. She is our sign language interpreter for today. Okay, so moving on to today's discussion, we are discussing unwanted pregnancy, the woman's choice. Madam Abigail, can
Yes.
you help us understand what we mean by unplanned pregnancy?
Okay, well, unplanned pregnancy is pregnancy that is unwanted during the conception period. So the woman did not intend to get pregnant, but then it happens. So that's what unplanned pregnancy is.
Oh, okay. Then how often do people approach you to help due to an unplanned pregnancy?
Personally, I haven't had a case of unplanned
Oh,
pregnancies.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so now let's talk about a woman's choice in dealing with unplanned pregnancy. What are the choices a person has in case of an unplanned pregnancy, and what does the Bible say about that?
Okay, so basically, a woman has two choices when it comes to unplanned pregnancy. It's either you keep the baby or you abort the baby. Yeah, so those are the two basic choices a woman has when it comes to unplanned pregnancy. When it comes to abortion, we have laws or policies that govern abortion in Ghana. So when we go to the criminal code, we see that there are some rules or certain, how do I put this? Instances, let me use the word instances, where a woman can abort her baby. So if a woman is raped, the woman can abort the baby. If the woman is a female idiot, that means the person is not in the right state of mind and needs like medical help, the person can abort the baby. If it's incest, the woman can abort the baby. So
Okay.
that's what the criminal code says. That's for Ghana. When it comes to the Bible, as a Christian, we know that God has given us the opportunity to have choices. So you can do whatever you want. But then, as a Christian, it also means that you have to toe the line of the Bible. And the Bible does not condone abortion. You cannot, even if the pregnancy is unplanned, you cannot remove the fetus.
So in that case, you have to keep it.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So as a social worker, as a Christian, what would you recommend for people facing such decisions about unplanned pregnancy, like when they have to keep the pregnancy?
Okay, before I move on, I forgot to mention another instance where you can have abortion, and that's when the woman is in danger medically. So if the woman's body cannot support the baby, then abortion must be done. So that's when the surgical abortion comes in. Yeah. So as a social worker, please come again with a question.
What are the what would you recommend for people facing such issues, like when they have to keep the baby or maybe when they have to abort? What do you have to say on that?
Okay, I would recommend first seeing a medical doctor or a medical practitioner. someone who is licensed, of course, not the whack ones.
Sure.
And then, if you're in the church, you should also seek the opinions or the advice of the elderly, like the women in the church, the elders of the church. That's the best way to me. I feel you can make a decision concerning whether you should keep the baby or you shouldn't keep the baby. Unfortunately, abortion in Ghana is
Quite dangerous.
it's tricky. It's very thorny. It's very dicey. Yes, especially now that we are in a world that is evolving day in day out. Now we have all these rights to do whatever we want to do with our bodies, and then coming back to the church, it's very dicey. In as much as you have the opportunity to make any choice you have, you also have to consider the fact that you're a Christian. So you cannot do whatever you want without considering the stance of the Bible or the stance of the church on abortion. So you have to look at all those things because it's dicey. It's very dicey. Yeah. So, for instance, if your sister was raped, and we know that when someone is raped, the person can abort the baby per the laws of Ghana according to the penal code. But now the person is in the church. It's your sister. You see, was the act like is it fair? It's not. Definitely, it's not fair.
It's not fair.
But then, does that mean you should also abort the baby? You see.
No.
So that's where all these thoughts and different schools of thoughts come in because it's your sister. You'll be angry, you'll be sad, you'll be emotional. It's your sister. This is not like
An outsider.
an outsider, yeah, like your family, your blood, and this has happened, and you're a Christian. Are you going to abort the baby? Are you going to keep the baby? Is it against the laws of God? Blah blah blah. You have to look at all these things. They're very dicey.
Oh, okay. Okay, so thank you very much for your contribution. What are your thoughts on how a parent or the church or even friends, siblings, how should they handle people who get into the unplanned? Just like you were your first, your initial, your I think your just ended scenario. You have a sister, she's in that situation. What should you do?
Okay. So the person must be given a lot of care. Because when we come to the typical Ghanaian society, um, we are superstitious and we are very moral. I'm talking of the typical Ghanaian society that has maybe evolved just a little bit. So we associate pregnancy out of marriage as something bad. We attach stigma to it. We attach we call the person maybe a bad person, or a bad girl, or those things, we are very superstitious. So when these things happen, especially when the people are close to us, that means we must handle it with care. Because we have to look at the emotional implications it has on the person. Even if the person willingly went into engage in sexual activities and then got pregnant out of marriage, we have to look at all the shame, the pressure, the societal pressure on the person and handle it with care. Because once we handle it with care, it's the only way we can draw them to us. And even if the person is thinking of having abortion, you could talk to the person will decide that I want to keep the baby. But if we shun them, we push them away, we do not draw them close to us, we don't handle them with the care and the words of encouragement and attentiveness they need, then we are doing more harm than good.
To that person.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. And to our audience, too, do not forget to send in your comments and also share this video. You can as well follow us on all our social media platforms, that is at Spotlight on the web, on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok, and at Spotlight OTW on Twitter. Okay, so the next question. When someone chooses to abort the baby, what actually goes into it?
Okay,
That
so
process of abortion, tell us more about it. What goes into it?
okay, so before someone decides to have an abortion,
Yeah.
the person has to make up their mind. And medically, you should go to the hospital for assessment. The doctor or the nurse or medical practitioner must assess you. Are you in the right state of mind? If you go through with it, are you going to be okay? And then they give you a consent form to sign. So there are two kinds of abortion, two types of abortion. We have the medical abortion and then the surgical one.
Okay.
For the medical one, you are given some drugs, and then
Okay.
yeah, the fetus comes out after a few hours. For the surgical one, especially for women who are not fit medically to carry the baby,
Baby.
yeah, they have this vacuum. I don't really know the technical terms, but
Yes.
then yeah, they take the baby away from you, and then they take care of you after. Yeah, so that's the process. But then the most important thing to me is that your mindset. You know, if you're not in the right state of mind, you can't make that choice that I want to abort my baby, I want to keep. So then your mindset, you must be ready, mentally ready, and emotionally ready for whatever choice you make.
Okay. So why first of all, why will people want to abort their babies? Like, why would they want to abort it?
Okay. Like I said, sometimes the pressure from society, you know, society has created a little bubble that everyone must live in. So once you move out of that space to another space, you are branded as a delinquent, you know. So you are the rebel. And so societal pressures sometimes makes people go through with abortion.
Okay.
The shame attached, the stigma, and sometimes poverty. It's also a factor. Poverty in the sense that if I'm a poor young lady who is not married, or even if I'm married to and my husband and I are not doing well, I wouldn't want to keep the baby because if I give birth, how am I going to take care of the baby? You know, looking after a baby is a lot of work. You know, you need to put your all in it. But then if I'm not able to do that, I wouldn't. And also sometimes religion, you know, and religion is in a way linked to societal norms and what you're supposed to do, the morally right things you're supposed to follow and then do. So those things are factors that can cause people to have abortions.
Oh, thank you very much. I hope you are all learning a lot from today's discussion. And then once again, do not forget to send in your comments and then share this video to others, especially our female friends. What are the mental and emotional effects on aborted women?
Okay, so um, one is regret.
Regrets.
Yeah, sometimes people have abortions and then as the years go by, you know, they keep reminiscing. If I had kept this child, what would have happened, you know? And having regrets means that you become stressed in a way because you keep thinking about it. So abortion induces stress in people, and sometimes in some extreme cases, suicide, especially when it comes to the stigma and the shame attached. And when you go out to the community, everyone is talking about you or gossiping about you. Even when they are not talking, you know, the way they look at you can,
The
yeah, the
reactions.
reactions, the reactions. If it's very bad, you're not in a supportive community, your family is not supportive because your family is your immediate, you know, I don't know, they are the immediate people that you contact in everything you do. So if your family is not supportive, and then the general community or society is not supportive, sometimes you can have suicidal thoughts. And if we are not careful, people will drive themselves into suicide because they had abortions and then and because we were gossiping about them and pointing fingers at them. So yeah, people have mental breakdowns when they have abortion, and the fact that maybe somebody seems unashamed of having abortion, or you know that the person had an abortion, the person is still walking freely in society, doesn't mean that the person is not having thoughts about it. Yeah, we all process these things differently. So whilst you may see it easily in others, you may not see it that same way in other people here. But doesn't mean that they are not, having mental issues or problems with it.
Oh, okay. That's is I say interesting and unfortunate. Okay, so we have to listen to what the Bible has to say with regards to the topic abortion. What does the Bible have to say about that?
Okay, so first of all, it's a big no.
A big man.
Yes, we should know that every life is sacred. Um, and it is sacred because God has made it so.
Okay.
God is thinking about every one of us. When we read Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 5, it says that before we were in the womb of our mothers, God had plans for us. So it means that life is sacred. Even the smallest tiniest bit of life is important to God. Most people often argue that maybe within the first weeks of pregnancy is just a clot of blood. But then the blood has life in it. So, of course, the life is important to God. Even before Mary gave birth to Jesus and Elizabeth gave birth to John, um, God had plans for them. He knew that John is going to be the forerunner of Jesus. So God had plans for them. If their mothers had aborted them, I don't know. Let's just come back to the worldly setting. If the mothers had aborted them, where would we have been? Yeah, so it's a big no because life is sacred, and we should honor that sanctity that God has put there. That every human matters to Him. So you cannot abort your baby. And as Christians, even when it comes to unplanned pregnancy, um, we are not supposed to be sexually immoral. So if you want to avoid unwanted pregnancy, what must you do? That means you must keep yourself holy. Yeah, away. Yes, away from sexual activities. That you come and say that it's unplanned. Then I don't know. You hear lots of stories, but yeah, when it comes to the Christian world, as in Christianity, is a big factor. Unless you want to infuse it with some worldly things, and that's when the argument sets in that pro-choice, pro-life. I have the right over my body. I don't want the baby. I can't take on the baby. But then when you come to the Christian aspects, you know you cannot do that.
Sure. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Please, you can send in your questions and then we will answer them for you. Okay, so what advice do you have for ladies having premarital sex or living sexually promiscuous life?
Okay. Um, I'll tell them that they should be ready to bear the consequences.
So be ready to bear.
Yeah, you should be ready to bear them. If you are engaging in sexual activities, and we have these the nurses and the doctors and the health sector, they say use condoms, be safe, blah blah blah.
Yes.
But then you know that they are not 100%
Reliable.
reliable. So if you're engaging in it, you have to be prepared to take care of a baby that may come out of it. Maybe you are lucky, you may not get pregnant, but then somebody may not be so pregnant, may not be so sorry, lucky, and the person might end up getting pregnant. So you should be ready to deal with the consequences because whatever happens, you have to face it. And even when David slept with Bathsheba, I mean, it was she wasn't his wife, was out of wedlock, had a whole lot of issues surrounding it. But they did not even abort the baby. So we should also take that into consideration. When the baby died, when the baby was born, I believe that David loved the baby and the mother also loved the baby. He prayed to God to save the baby, but then it wasn't so. This shows that humans humans have a lot to offer, whether they are babies or adults or whatever pedestal we put them, they have a lot to offer to the world. So, as a Christian, you should be ready to face the consequences because you know what the Bible says. The Bible says, "Do not do this. Do not be sexually immoral. Do not, engage in what." But then you go and engage in it, and so yeah, be ready to face the consequences.
So if you are doing that, you should be ready to face the consequences. Okay, our last part one question for the day. Okay. What is your advice to someone facing such decisions? Either to keep or to abort the baby?
I'll say talk to someone. Talk to a therapist, talk to a preacher, talk to the elders and women in your church, talk to a medical doctor. We have psychologists and social work practitioners around you can talk to. Um, Sometimes when you talk to people, you're able to get different perspectives, and then you're able to make the right choice. But of course, I wouldn't advise you to go and abort the baby. And then talking to people also helps.
And I think at this stage, you have to know who to talk to.
Yes, you should know who to talk to. Sometimes, well, humans are humans are complicated beings, so you have to know the right person to talk to so that you have all your facts down, the advantages and the disadvantages. If I do it, this is what I'm going to face. If I don't do it, this is what I'm going to face. You should be ready for both sides of the coin. Yeah.
Final words for us.
Well, final words. I will say that from my Christian point of view, abortion is not right. Even if you are going through a lot and you feel that you cannot take care of the baby, there are people around you who can help. You should be able to open up to people. You should be able to talk to your church leaders. And one thing I'll say is the church leaders or the church should not shun these people. Everyone sins. It's just that their sin, well, produce the results. It's produced the result that was not really favorable. But then children are a gift from God, we often say. So you cannot push the person in a corner and make the person feel like the worst sinner ever in the world. When you do that, you lose people. And if there's somebody in the church whose faith is not really grounded, it's a little shaky. The person will be like, "Oh, so this is what you do in the church. But people do, maybe far worse things than just engaging in premarital sex or getting pregnant and sometimes you also have to look at the situation. So I already mentioned the situation where maybe somebody is married but then is medically unfit to carry the baby. So if this person has an abortion and then it comes to the church, are you going to,
Kind of.
disfellowship her from the church or shun her just because her body was not fit to carry the baby? So you see, if unfortunately 20 women in the church go out there and then they get pregnant, are you going to are you going to defend all the 20 of them? You cannot do that. So even if they confess in the church and they come back, let's not shun them. Because the church is supposed to be safe. The church is supposed to be a place where we can carry each other's burdens. But if I come and where I'm supposed to be, you're supposed to, take me under your wing, you're supposed to advise me, you're supposed to talk to me, but you're not doing all those things, but rather doing the opposite. It wouldn't be a safe space for me.
Sure, sure. So, thank you very much for joining us today. Okay, to our audience out there, thank you very much for watching today's video. And also during the week, we'll come your way with sermon series, Bible pod, and then the wise king said. Please do well to listen to our sermon series, our Bible pod, and then share our wise king said as well. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media platforms at Spotlight on the Word, Facebook, on Facebook, YouTube, and then Instagram, and at Spotlight OTW on Twitter. You can also download our app. You can visit our website to at www.spotlightontheword.com. Thank you very much for joining us today. See you next week. Bye.